You're listening to the Best Company Show, Southern California's business podcast, focusing on topics of interest to CEOs and managers of middle market companies, with your host, Robert J. Curtis.
And welcome to this edition of the Best Companies radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Robert J. Curtis. This is podcast episode number 5, and we have a great show for you today. I'm excited to have special guest Raoland Canamar from Silver Dream Factory with us, an independent studio, film studio, and actually you have a production company too, right?
Yes.
It's located in Anaheim, California.
Yes.
Right in the shadow of Disneyland.
And Knott's Berry Farm.
Oh, and Knott's Berry Farm
A
too.
stone's throw away.
There you go. And you're within the zone, I understand. So that makes a big difference. So a lot of, union productions and other moderate-sized productions can actually take advantage of your facility.
Yes. Now they call that the TMZ. That means 30-mile zone.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves now. That's a little bit too much information.
All right.
Let's do this. What I want to do is let you introduce yourself. Tell our listeners and our viewers, about you and about the Silver Dream Factory, its origins. And I know we don't have a lot of time here, so don't take too long on yourself.
Okay.
Let's talk about Silver Dream Factory, because that is the really cool thing that you have going right now. And it's been going for a long time. So let's tell me about it.
Well,
what's Silver Dream Factory and what makes it great?
Well, when I was 13, I wanted to have a studio. So I spent most of my life trying to actually produce and direct little short films, and I decided I needed a studio. Although I'd been working as a cinematographer. So the early days of Silver Dream Factory were pretty rough. I was working as a cinematographer, doing grip and lighting supplies as well, and needed a place that I could have my equipment. So I decided to get a studio and start producing different projects with the hope of doing that. So that was kind of forecasting what I wanted to do. So I was doing a lot of work in Orange County and wanted to keep it in Orange County. Of course, it was rough because I started it in Laguna Niguel. And Laguna Niguel is about 65 miles away from Hollywood. So it was rough then, because attracting people to come down to the studio was tough, because I only had a white cyc, which is just an open room studio. And I decided to build sets. And everyone in Orange County said, you can't build sets in Orange County. It's just, there's no place to, no one's going to come and produce a movie here. Well, after I built a few sets that were hard to obtain, the first one, of course, was the hospital. And we are now in Anaheim. Well, the rest is history. We attracted clients from Hollywood. We got people down here, even out of the zone. And eventually I realized I had to move into the zone and have a bigger facility to attract bigger productions. So I did that. And we went to Anaheim, which we have a facility there, which is in the zone. And we have great prices, great sets. And we attract a lot of producers to come in because, one, we don't have a lot of things, regulations that LA has, because we're in Orange County.
Wonderful. Okay, so and probably a lower cost. I think there's taxation on the productions going in LA County and things like that.
Yes, there's a lot of taxation, and yes.
Okay, so those are your advantages. Tell me, what have you done with it? Tell me, what kind of productions have you had?
Okay, feature films. That's our main staple of productions that come in.
Okay, independent films?
Independent films, things you might see on Netflix, Amazon, even independent, just self-produced, self-distributed type of pictures.
Okay.
Lower budgets, of course, because they can afford our sets. They're quality sets for a very low price, which averages about probably 500% discount compared to what they're getting in Hollywood.
Okay, and so describe, well, you've kind of mentioned that you have, for example, a hospital set. You started with that.
Yes.
I know. I've been over there. I've seen it. So you have a lot more than that. Tell me what you have.
Well, okay. Well, we have a hospital set. First of all, I decided to design and build the sets that are in the locations that are hardest to get for a production that's independent, that doesn't have the money to spend $10,000 to $12,000 a day. Okay. So I built a hospital, a full facility hospital, rooms, hallways, morgue, things like that. A police station, jail cells, bullpen, captain's office, interrogation room, evidence office. I built airplanes. So we have cockpit, fuselages, and an airport, which is the terminal, which no one has in the size of studio that actually has in my type of boutique studio. Okay. And we have a house, we have a diner. Oh, the exteriors are the back lot, which we have back lot exteriors with sidewalks, alley, and things like that.
Okay. Now, let's go back to something that we started off way early with, and probably too early. But I want to dig into it real quick. The zone.
Yes.
Okay. You mentioned the zone and how it might be important. I kind of know a little bit about it, but can you explain it to us a little bit more detail? What is the zone and why is it important?
Okay, the zone is a 30-mile radius from La Cienega and Beverly. They draw that around, and it goes into Orange County. It dips into northern Orange County and different parts of the San Gabriel Valley. But the important thing is that SAG actors and other union participants, either local 399 or Teamsters, can work there without having to penalize the producer for mileage and being set up overnight. And that's particularly with SAG. You may have a small production, but you might have 10 SAG actors, and if you're out of the zone, you have to pay for them to stay overnight and pay them per diem and for mileage. And that could cost the production a lot of money if you do the math.
But they don't have to do
They don't have to do that because we are in the zone, even though we're in Orange County. And we're not in the jurisdiction of LA County. So we have a tax base that's better in terms of less regulation, which is very attractive to producers.
Sure. It makes it easier to do things.
Absolutely.
Okay. So in addition to this, we'll do a little sidetrack here.
Okay.
I know I want to get back to the studio, but you also have your own film production company.
Yeah.
Mustard Seed?
Mustard Seed Films is a brand that we have, but it's actually Silver Dream is a production company as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and we just a little side note, the sets were actually designed for me. Mm-hmm. So I designed it for me, and it turns out that that's become its own business as rental, and that was never really intended. But so the side business I have is really kind of the sets,
the main business.
But it's become the main business now. So I have a little brand called Mustard Seed Films. It's a faith-based brand, and we do short tiny little movies that are 3 minutes long with a lot of content. So that's what we've been doing, but I haven't had a lot of time lately to do that. But I'm getting on track to actually produce features because we want to produce content for Netflix and Amazon and things like that.
Okay, so studio management. Let's talk about it. Because number one, you already told me that you have time issues on your own. You can't do your productions and you can't run the studios at the same time.
At the same
studio's
time.
taken over.
Right.
But the studio itself is a big venture, right? It's a lot
Yes.
of people involved, not necessarily in your staff. You probably have your business people and your administrative and your technical
Yes.
and post-production kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do all of
Yes,
that.
when we do that, we have those people that we hire
Okay.
for those productions.
But then you also have, the people come into the facilities. They're coming on a daily basis to make their movies
Correct.
and do their thing. So
Right.
you've got their business people, the productions business people, the producers, the directors, the technical people. You've got the actors. How many people on an average day are in your studios?
About 35 to 45 on an
Okay.
average day.
Okay.
And sometimes that dips down, but that's a new crew almost every day. And it's
Okay.
a new set of circumstances regarding how to manage those people when they come in. The actors need a place for their makeup. The makeup artists need a place where to park the trucks, where to manage the craft services is really important.
Okay.
Got to get the food in there. People they got to have good food. So it's always, we actually have designated a spot
Okay.
about 5 years ago for a commissary where they can put all their food.
Okay.
And it was an issue at first because we had space where they needed to put tables and chairs and things like that. So
Right.
all that, it's kind of like herding cats.
Okay.
It really is, because every production has its own type of culture and it has its own personality, depending on what kind of film it is. It's a horror film, it's a dramedy, or if it's some sort of action adventure film. They all have their different players, and they kind of bring their own attitudes in terms of what they're needing.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about that, the different attitudes. A majority of the people, I would say, that are in there on a typical day, they're creative people?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Almost all of them are creative people.
Okay, but then they also have the technical people. And
Yes.
some business people coming
Yes.
and going and doing things,
Correct. Well, those are the producers, executive producers.
right? People like that. So
Right.
you consider those
Investors.
people kind of creative also?
Well, there
to
can be a
certain
creative producer who drives the whole product, but typically they're sort of hired guns, and
Okay.
sometimes they're investors that come in. They call them executive producers,
Mm-hmm.
and they are pretty much just there for sometimes for the ride.
Okay.
The glitz and the glamour of production, which is actually like watching paint dry when you get down to it. It's a slow process of
they learn
take
that?
after take after take, and like, we'll be seeing you, we'll be back later, and they're gone. And so
Okay.
the investors might come in and they have some fun, and they're looking at the production to see what's going on.
Okay. So the people who are actually in there on a day-to-day basis, and we're talking to a lot of actors, a lot of directors, and other people, and they have their own issues, they have their own agendas and things like that. Can you describe them? I mean, what happens in a studio? What is the paint drying process that we don't see?
Well, the paint drying
outside?
process is the actual, like making sausage. When you're making the product, that's different than what everybody needs. So, for example, there's times when a producer has hired a child, and they need specific spaces for that child with a studio teacher.
Okay.
And since we're a boutique studio, we don't have 100 rooms. I actually took out most of my office space so I could make room for more sets. So those things all have to be managed like ahead of time. Sometimes they don't get managed ahead of time, and so we're stuck with trying to figure out how to get them a place where it's quiet enough so they can do their schooling for that. So that they have their set of circumstances. The makeup artists need enough room so they can put all their supplies out. So that sometimes is a problem. So sometimes we suggest that they bring a honey wagon so they can have makeup rooms in there too and park it out in front or in the parking lot in the back lot area. Mm-hmm. So what we've done is try to, almost like a concierge, dealing with all the issues. We also send out notices when someone rents a studio that this is a reminder of what you need to do, what you need to bring, because we're not Universal Studios. We don't have all the space in the world, so we have to kind of consolidate everything and make it work. But for the most part, the productions we're doing, that's fine with. We don't have a crew of 300 people.
Okay.
So,
yeah, but you do have a lot of people, and they're coming and going, and there's a timing issue probably there too. People come in at certain times; they need to get certain things.
Yes,
done,
and we do a couple things different than some studios. We actually have night shoots, so we have a schedule. We have 2 time slots: 7 a.m., 7 p.m., and then 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And what we do is we'll have shoots back to back, so it becomes a real timing issue getting people in and out of the studio, and everybody has their place. You have PAs that need to clean up, and you have to inform everybody that there's another production coming in, and they have to be out driving away at 6:59. We call it tail lights. So managing that is always difficult. So I always bring in the second site rep to come in to manage the people coming in who want to get in, who see the gates open, but the people who are leaving need to get out, and they can't be in their way.
Okay.
So it's really.
Roland, you've convinced me you're a very, very busy man. Okay?
Very busy.
Okay, but on that note, let's take a quick break, okay? And we'll have a word from our sponsor, which happens to be Alpha Quantix, my company, and we'll tell you a little bit what we do at Alpha Quantix when we get back, and we'll talk a little bit more with Roland.
Perfect.
Robert J. Curtis is the founder and CEO of Alpha Quantix, a premier provider of employee analytics and metrics that helps CEOs and managers of middle market companies hire the best, manage the best, and be the best. Robert is a keynote speaker, presenter, moderator, and panel member who regularly appears at conferences, business events, and association meetings nationwide. His presentations provide powerful information that give CEOs and managers of middle market companies valuable insights to improve their hiring and engagement skills. If you'd like Robert to make a personal appearance, he can be contacted by visiting his show's website, bestcompanyshow.com, or by emailing Robert at info@bestcompanyshow.com.
Okay, welcome back to the Best Company Show. I'm Robert J. Curtis, your host, and we have Raoland Canamar of Silver Dream Factory here. Be sure to check out our website for bestcompanyshow.com for information on upcoming shows and speaking engagements and various things going on. There's a lot of information there. We're updating it literally daily on a regular basis. You'll find lots of information. And you'll be able to view and listen to past shows with past guests on interesting topics. And, of course, we always focus on the best companies and the best managers and how they manage their people and how they make their companies great. Anyway, you'll also be able to look at us on the YouTube channel, Stitcher, and many of our guests' websites. Hopefully, Roland, you'll be able to put us up there, or at least part of this interview. It'd be nice to see it there. And anyway, so today, let's resume. Oh, wait a second. Let's tell me about how people, if they want to reach Silver Dream Factory, and they want to find out about it, tell me where they're going to find out about it. You have a website.
Best place to go is silverdreamfactory.com. It's a very extensive website. We publish our prices and our contracts online, which a lot of studios don't do.
Okay. And is there a phone number that they can call?
Sure. 714-836-1853.
Wonderful. Okay, good. So let's pick up where we left off. Talking about managing people and having all these people coming and going and all the timing issues. And, you mentioned tail lights.
Yes.
At 6:59, they got to be on the way out. But you got another crew coming in, and they're probably waiting at the gate to get in too.
Chomping at the bit.
Okay, so it presents some issues. Tell me about it. What are the things that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis or a month-to-month basis?
Well, it's scheduling. When it gets down to it, productions typically want to schedule any time that's very convenient for them. But because we have 2 different time slots, we have to schedule them at 7. Mm-hmm. So that's very important to us to keep everybody in the loop, the producer, director, and the AD, and the coordinators too, and the location managers, that they know that we have another shoot coming in after them, and that they have to be here at a certain time in order for 2 things to happen. one, to get them in on time for the next shoot, set, to be out, to get their 12 hours. And then also, we actually have a 7 o'clock a.m. call time kind of we put together because people coming south on the 5 freeway and other freeways don't really get traffic. It's later on, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, where they might get traffic. But everyone going north is going slower. So we've instituted a 7 a.m. call, which is most stages are like usually 8 a.m. So at times it's a little tough with producers. They want to come in later because of traffic, and it's actually the opposite. If they come in earlier, it's better for them.
Well, okay, but then your directors, or maybe your executive producers, if they're a writer, for example, they have certain shots they need to get. They have certain things they need to do. They might need a nighttime thing. They might need a sunset. They might need a sunrise.
That's true, and that also presents a lot of challenges because sometimes they want to come in the middle of the day. So what we've instituted is they can change that, but there's a cost related to that change because then we lose the nighttime slot. So typically, if they need to do anything at night that's interior of one of our interior sets, they can fake that during the time slot they have during the day because they're in a studio that's controlled. If they're doing it outside, well, that's a different issue. Then they have to come in at night. But even then, in the diner and some of the sets that are exterior sets that have interiors in them, they can actually fake that too. We call it tenting, and we create our own light. We create our own daylight or create our own sunsets. We can do that. But if it's a shot in the street, of course, it's very difficult to fake.
Okay, now, and let's talk about, I think, the biggest management challenge of all, the artists.
The artists, yeah.
The actors, the singers, the dancers, whoever else might be coming along for the production. 7 o'clock in the morning? Are you kidding? I mean, are they ready to be there? Are they on the ball and ready to go?
Everybody's got a venti when they come in, literally.
Okay.
I mean, so for some people it's tough because it's an early call time.
Right, and then what happens to them because they have their creative talent needs? They need to prepare, psych themselves up, get in the frame of mind, all this artist kind of stuff.
Well, it's like anything else. Some people are great morning people and they can function very early that way. And some people can't. It takes them a little time to get going. But most of our videos, music videos that come in, are typically at night because
they're on a nighttime schedule.
They're on a nighttime schedule. They're playing gigs. They're doing things. So they want to book at night. So about 90% of our music videos are night, from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Really interesting. Okay. Do these people ever present in conflict or issues for you? Do they come in and make excessive demands like the stereotypical Hollywood prima donna or actress or whatever? Or
not really. There are times when there might be a situation where they were expecting a makeup room that was bigger, or they were expecting a production office that was bigger, and they're kind of taken back by, oh wow, we need something bigger than this. And I said, well, this is all we got. You can set up tables somewhere else. We're very accommodating. We're very accommodating. As a person in production and shooting and directing, that's one of the advantages we have as a studio. We know. I've been to many stages. I've been to many locations. I've booked them. I've actually worked on them as a cinematographer. I know what it takes to be on location and what to do. So we try to accommodate as much as we can. But there's only so much building and so much property that we have.
Right.
So sometimes we have to get them to bring in honey wagons and other trailers.
Okay, honey wagon being?
That's where they have additional bathrooms and additional dressing rooms and a place for production.
Okay, and this is all hopefully prepared in advance, and you coordinate and all that
yes,
kind of thing.
And we do that. Yeah.
Now, what about whatever they might be, an actor, actress, or somebody performer who needs to prepare and decides that they're going to launch off and go into private areas or not?
Okay,
regulated space.
Typically their contracts will have that they need some sort of private area, either a trailer or a room. And we've made accommodations to pull the makeup room out and create a small room for the one named actor who's the main talent, so to speak, or the draw for the poster.
Okay.
We'll make accommodations for them. But typically we tell them, if you have someone, if 2 or 3 of those, well, we don't have 2 or 3 rooms for that. So they typically will bring a honey wagon. And there's some actors that just will hang out in the car. I mean, I remember C. Thomas Howell hanging out in his car in the parking lot, just kind of being cool and just chilling with everybody. He never went in the honey wagon. He got a trailer from it. He was never in it hardly.
So there are some down-to-earth, normal people.
Oh yeah, they just it's cool. Awesome. They hang out with everybody.
Okay, so now let's move on. I want to get on to something, and I told you briefly about this before you walked in here, and I don't know how much you remember about it, but we have a weekly tradition here called the Hot Seat Question.
Okay.
Every week, I throw a Hot Seat Question at the guest, and we talk. What I want to do is get their feedback on what's in the news and what people are talking about these days. Okay, so here's your Hot Seat Question for today. Okay, the latest news is this: Disney is pulling all of its content from Netflix and other places, avenues, and they're apparently going to create their own outlets with the Disney Channel, beyond the Disney Channel, on the web and other media streaming places and things like that. And you know the language, I don't. But Netflix now is having, they're kind of a battle with them in a sense. It's a business battle, but they're trying to keep the viewer's eyes, and Disney's trying to pull the viewer's eyes back. My question for you is, what's this going to do for the small budget productions and the people who are coming into your facilities? Is it going to make things more challenging, more difficult? Is it going to be easier, better, more opportunities? You tell me. What's your take on it?
I think the more channels you have, so to speak, on streaming, I think it creates more opportunity for the small budget production.
Okay, so is this more opportunity?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and absolutely,
how?
but
because they're pulling content.
Well,
from one
because
and
here's
putting
what's
it on
happened. Netflix has actually kind of sucked out all the air in Hollywood, because they're offering actors, directors, producers more money to do the original content. Now, all the other production companies, we're talking the big five, Universal, Warner's, and Fox, they're all freaking out because it's like, we used to get this guy for X amount. Now we got to pay double that. Or so it's created a lot of them. Netflix has taken a lot of people, so it opens the doors for other people to come in those venues through the other big production companies or the big studios, or with other production companies that are springing up to produce content at a cheaper rate so they can afford it.
So basically, well, wait a second. So will it be at a cheaper rate? Because you just told me Netflix is bidding up the prices of talent. The Disney's going and expanding. Disney's going to bid up the price of talent too, right? So is there going to be a talent shortage?
Well,
it's
created a pricing war for talent. So and
that's
what the studios. That's what the studios are upset. Yes, no, for the actor, for the director, for the producers that are highly skilled, DPs, cinematographers, and other craftspeople. It's created a whole situation where there's a bidding war.
Okay.
So the studios are upset because the big five are upset because Netflix is raising the prices. So if they want to go back there, they're going to have to meet the price or do better.
Right.
So it's created that. Now we're talking about the bigger producers, the ones that have the $20 million, $100 million movies. But it also creates a vacuum for, not a vacuum, but an opening for other producers to come in that are content producers that can actually get in the door and actually create content for Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, YouTube, probably Disney, whoever else wants to open up another place. But it's I really think it's going to open more doors. I think it's better for the production.
And how about for the small budget productions, the productions that are using facilities? Same thing? It's going to open up the doors for them?
Well, I think so. Well, it's going to create a problem because the more productions you have, the less room you have. So it's actually better for me because up in Hollywood, there's not a lot of room. So they'll come to me as well, looking for space.
Awesome. Well, hopefully that will lead to great things for you and the people you're working with. And one thing, I want to wrap up here. We got to wrap it up the show. And I want to thank you so much for being a guest here, Raoland. I also want to thank you because you are, every week I mention your name on the show. You probably don't even remember it. but you're the producer of the show. I know you help out in a lot of ways. You've helped us get things together, and you continue to help us work on things. So thank you so much for being a producer on the show, as well as a guest today. I also want to thank our engineer, Paul Roberts, who's here doing his thing. And if you'd like to connect with me through social media, and I'd love to connect with everybody, you can come to LinkedIn and start there. That's a great place. You can also go to the bestcompaniesshow.com website. Once again, Raoland, if they want to connect with you?
SilverGeneFactory.com, 714-836-1853.
Wonderful. Until our next show, I hope your hiring and management decisions will lead you to be one of the best companies around.
You've been listening to The Best Company Show, Southern California's business podcast, focusing on topics of interest to CEOs and managers of middle market companies, with your host, Robert J. Curtis.